Hey, I'm very excited to be talking to Grant Sabatier, who was called the Millennial Millionaire by CNBC. Grant, I think you went from $2.26 to $1 million in about 5 years through side hustles and investing. Is that true, or is that just kind of like the myth of Grant?
No, it's totally true. From 2010 to 2015, I went from $2.26 to over $1 million in liquid net worth in my investment
And that was
accounts.
because you married someone who was hugely wealthy?
No, it's because I spent most of my time working, honestly, during those 5 years. I went from one income stream to seven and focused on investing 100% of my side hustle income. So I was a beneficiary of the growth in the market from 2010 until now, been able to use that really heavily to my advantage. But just through a lot of tried and true saving, diversity of income streams, and investing, I was able to build my wealth pretty quickly and reach financial independence at age 30.
This sounds a little bit crazy. I mean, I'm trying to answer this question in a nice way, but I know that people are thinking, is this guy a nut? Like, did you just go insane and say, I'm going to become a millionaire and just stop everything and just start working?
Kind of, honestly.
All right.
No, but I think
that's what it takes. You do what it takes.
Yeah, so it was really, I was 24, it was 2010. I was back home living with my parents. I'd been through a few jobs, had blown through all of my money, and really was starting from scratch. And I knew that I had one thing still on my side, which was time. So I was only 24. And I was like, you know what? I want to make as much money as I can, as quickly as I can. And I'm going to try this out. I didn't set out with $1 million goal. I just set out to try to make as much money as possible because I knew that the market was low and that if I could get money into the market, I could really benefit from the growth. And so I figured, hey, if you can make some sacrifices today, there's a chance that you could reach early retirement and then have the rest of your life to do whatever you want. And I made that really my number one priority and put, everything I had behind it and luckily enough was able to accomplish it. And now, I wake up every morning and can do what I want. And, that's so it's a sacrifice.
So you can do whatever you want. You do this cool thing. You've got this website, millennialmoney.com, and you got a podcast and you write about it and you teach about it. But it seems that, let's say you chose not to do that, because I know you make money on those things as well. $1 million today, and I'm not knocking it because it's a huge amount of money, that's not enough to retire on for someone who's 30, right?
Yeah, and actually the interesting thing is I make about $1 million a year now with my other income streams. So I'm actually growing my net worth at a faster rate than I did even during that 5-year period. Mm-hmm. And I call this theory the compounding interest of life effect. And because I invested literally so much of my time in building relationships, building multiple companies, I actually own 4 different companies, that I've been able to benefit from the growth of all of those and the relationships and the investment. So it's not just the money, it's the fact that the seeds that I invested in the companies that I've launched, they're returning larger returns now than obviously when I started. And so it's not like I stopped everything and just started blogging. Blogging is one of the many things that I do that generates income.
We're talking with Grant Sabatier, who is not only a blogger, but a podcaster and the owner of several different businesses. All those businesses seem to bring a great cash flow into you, Grant. One of the things you touched on before, which is where I'd like to focus, is you said you wanted to get money into the stock market. And I presume when other people talk about getting money into the stock market, they're talking about long-term growth. Guy who's in his 20s, we say, great, if you can invest for the next 40 years, you'll be doing fantastic. But it sounds like you see it as more of a short-term approach. What were you looking to do, and how do you manage your stock investments in order to make them as profitable as they are?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I very much have a short and a long-term view in the market. So I have a strategy for when I'm investing money that I need in the next 5 years versus money in the long term. I just happen to have the advantage of the market was so low when I started in 2010 that every dollar that I invested then is now worth $3.25. So it was a mixture of, index funds and some individual equities. I actually really only invest about 10% of my holdings in individual equities. I have some real estate as well. But over that time period, I got very lucky in a couple senses. And now actually individual equities, my stakes have grown so much that 40% of my net worth is in individual equities. And I'm in the process of rebalancing that and putting it back into index funds. But I've just been the beneficiary of some really bullish Amazon growth, Facebook growth, and some other holdings, as well as just, tried and true index fund, Vanguard Total Stock Market Index, Total International Stock Market Index, and some emerging market funds. all of those combined. I've beat the S&P by at least 3% every year since 2010, just for my holdings. And I don't consider myself an advanced investor by any means.
So how did you choose the stocks? Let's dive into that. What was your model other than, I guess, you buy on Amazon and you like looking at your friends on Facebook?
Yeah, exactly. It's actually pretty interesting. I was at the University of Chicago, and we were the second school to get access to Facebook. So I was like user number 18,000 on Facebook. They used to actually tell you what user you were. So I was an early user of the platform. So immediately when it went public, I dumped a bunch of money into it, bought it at $32 a share, and I've held on to that. Amazon as well. I've been buying Amazon since 2010 and started getting into it at about $280. And so I've consistently invested in Amazon through the years, staked a large position last February at $500. And, it obviously just recently hit $1,000. So I honestly just only invest in equities and companies that I believe in and of products that I use. So it was pretty simple once I started seeing, Amazon diversify beyond books, and it was just so easy to order things. And then once Prime launched, I saw that as being really a game changer. You can get anything in 2 days. And I've just had the fortune of being kind of 2 or 3 years ahead of a lot of trends in my life. And I think maybe it's because I'm a millennial on the older end of the spectrum. I'm 32 now, but I've just been very lucky to be sort of coming of age at a time when certain things are new in the market, and I've been able to capitalize on them.
How many different individual stocks do you own?
I have a portfolio of 11 individual equities now, so not very.
So which is
not very broad.
Not too broad, but that's okay. It gives you something you can follow. What's your worst stock story?
Oh gosh, so my worst stock story is when I actually first started investing in stocks. It was 2008 when I got my first job out of college. And I didn't know anything about investing. I thought you just put money into the stock market. And, I made the mistake that a lot of people make, and I'm thankful that I made it really early, is that I tried to day trade. So I bought a number of stocks that I just thought, would go up. And I was stupid enough, I was reading like websites like The Street and, all of these Motley Fool and all these ones where it's like, oh, this stock's going to jump. And obviously, whenever anyone's writing about it, that's already been priced in. And so I bought a lot of different equities and I lost about $3,000 in 3 or 4 days. And I did that twice. And then I was like, I'm never day trading again.
All right.
And then actually, I just recently, for the first time ever, shorted a stock. So I've never done that before, but I shorted Snapchat, which was super happy about. I'm still sort of shorting Snapchat, and I'm pretty excited about that play. But lo and behold, a lot of it's just been companies that I use myself. So I'm an Apple investor. I was an early Netflix investor. Amazon. I was actually fortunate enough to buy Square shares, Class B shares, before they were released to the market. So pre-IPO on a secondary market exchange. So I still own Square and believe in the company. And yeah, most of them are just ones I use myself.
So that's your main criteria. Do you then dive in and do the research, do the fundamental research on the stocks?
No, I actually don't at all. I find a lot of that research, everyone has a different theory. I understand PE ratios and all of the technical aspects just because I've learned myself. There's a great company called Simply Wall Street. It's a company based out of Australia. I love those guys. And they've created what's kind of like the Pinterest of stock investing. And they've got this platform where basically you can log in and it visualizes, you can visualize all of the basically fundamentals and cash flow projections, analyst ratings. It's an incredible platform. So I occasionally, use that and hang out and check out sort of undervalued stocks. But, once again, I have to feel really, really motivated to add a new position to my portfolio. Most of the cash that I'm getting, I'm just dumping into index funds or occasionally buying more Amazon stock. Or there's this one company, 2U, I recently invested in, which is an online education provider. So I don't look at the fundamentals. I just,
Got it. You look at the company you like and what they're doing. Interesting. I know that you talk about this a lot in many different areas. Grant, we are just about out of time, but in the last few seconds, tell me, how can people follow you and follow your work?
Yeah, check me out at millennialmoney.com and at millennialmoney on Twitter. It's the best place to find me. Join my newsletter, check me out on Twitter, or check out my podcast. It's Millennial Money Minutes, Personal Finance in 5 minutes or less. Episodes are released every morning. So best way to find me, and I'm working on a book that'll be out next spring with Penguin Random House, and super excited to bring the millennial money strategy to the world.
Great. Okay, we will put links to all of that at the show notes of today's show. Grant Sabatier, thanks so much for taking the time.
Hey, thanks, Doug. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Check out all of Doug's money ideas at goldsteinongelt.com. Doug specializes in helping people who live outside the United States handle their U.S. investment accounts. If you have a question that you would like answered on the air or off, contact Doug at his website or send him an email to doug@profile-financial.com.